So now, as that last thought of rules and houses fades like a candle at the end of a corridor, we step through the doors you know so well and out into the wider world around them. Welcome, dear listener, to the quiet edge of the Scottish Highlands, where the castle stands between rolling earth and restless sky, a place that feels just far enough from everything else that ordinary time seems to loosen its grip. This is a land of long, sloping hills that fold into one another in soft, muted greens and browns, with distant mountains rising in blue-grey layers, their peaks often lost in cloud. The air carries the cool scent of peat and wet stone, and below the castle's cliff, the great lake lies dark and still, its surface often smooth as black glass, broken only by the faintest ripple of something moving far beneath. In the earliest hours of morning, when you might just be turning over in a four-poster bed, mist gathers first over that water, then drifts upward in thin veils, curling around the towers and turrets until the whole castle seems to float in a sea of silver. From the outside, to non-magical eyes, there is almost nothing here at all. Powerful enchantments, layered over centuries, show only a ruin with tumbled stones and warning signs, a forgotten shell that politely discourages curious hikers from coming any closer. To you and to those who know, it is something very different, a whole magical world tucked safely away from the noise and pace of trains and motor cars, its ancient walls holding back not enemies now, but distraction, hurry, and the constant brightness of the modern era. Every era holds its own magic, but here that magic is carefully hidden, its power felt more as a hush than a shout. The school year begins when summer is just starting to fade, in the first days of September, when the Highlands still hold a memory of warmth, but the evenings come a little earlier each night. As you settle into your comfortable space in this imagined journey, you might picture the trees on the far slopes slowly turning, first to amber, then to deep copper and brown, until winter arrives with its clear, sharp stars and the castle wrapped in snow. Time moves gently here. Spring comes with the soft drip of thawing icicles and the sudden brightness of green along the lake's edge, and the days stretch longer and lighter toward June, until another year of whispered history is complete. Inside, the mood of the place settles around you in small, repeating sounds. Footsteps echo along stone corridors, sometimes brisk, sometimes sleepy, sometimes no more than a single pair passing in the distance. Portraits murmur to one another in alcoves, trading news between frames, their painted voices rising and falling like distant conversation in another room. At dawn and dusk, when light slants through narrow windows, there is the dry rustle of owls' wings as they come and go from the owlery, a soft, feathery thunder that marks the changing of the day more surely than any clock. For now, it may feel as though this is a place entirely ruled by mood and mystery, by shadows on staircases and moonlight on the lake, by secrets in the forest and stories waiting to be told in every empty classroom. Yet even here, beneath the calm and the ancient stone, there are very practical systems at work. Bells that chime through the hush, timetables that sort hundreds of lives into orderly hours, and rules that, at least in theory, guide where every student should be. How does such a magical castle keep its days from dissolving into chaos? In the next part of our journey, we will walk through a single school day, letting the gentle flow of its routines reveal how Hogwarts actually works. 1147. From Founder's Dream to Living Routine. Why Hogwarts Exists. Duration 6:33. So as those bells chime and the timetables quietly arrange every hour, it can be easy to forget that there was a time when none of this existed at all, when there were no corridors to patrol and no curfews to keep. Welcome, dear listener, to an earlier era when magic in Britain lived not in a castle on a cliff, but in scattered cottages, forest clearings, and cramped upper rooms above village shops, each little pocket of power inventing its own way to get through the day. This was a time before school trunks and house scarves, when a magical child might learn their first spell at a kitchen table, watching a parent coax a candle to light without flint or tinder, or in a damp wood, tracing shapes in the air while an older cousin tried to remember the Latin their grandmother had once muttered. Spells were half remembered and half invented, passed down like bedtime stories, so that in one valley a charm for mending might be a song, while in another it was a tap of a wand on worn cloth, the knowledge carried more by tradition than by books. In such homes, untrained magic would slip out in gentle, unpredictable ways, not as terror, but as small, startling wonders that were difficult to explain. A frightened child might levitate a stool a few inches from the floor and leave it hovering there all afternoon, or a burst of laughter at supper might send spoons quietly spinning to new places on the table. Now and then, a nighttime worry could bloom into a soft globe of light above a bed, or a stack of firewood might rearrange itself into a neater pile, as though the house itself were tidying in sympathy. For the adults who loved these children, there was both pride and unease, because every era holds its own magic, but it also holds its own fears. Non-magical neighbors might notice a plate that never broke, or a field that flourished too well, and whispered questions would follow, while within magical families there was a quieter concern. Who would teach the next generation properly, and what might happen if no one did? It was into this world of fragile domestic improvisation that 4 witches and wizards began to imagine something different. Godric, Helga, Rowena, and Salazar did not agree on everything, but they shared a simple, steady realization that magic, left entirely to chance and memory, was as vulnerable as any story told around a fire. They dreamed of a place where children could be guided and watched over, where their accidental levitation could become deliberate charm work, and their drifting sparks of light could be shaped into controlled, beautiful spells, all safely away from the suspicious eyes of those who did not share their gifts. From that dream, the idea of Hogwarts emerged, not just a fortress against the outside world, but a routine, a rhythm, a living schedule that would hold young witches and wizards from dawn to curfew. As you settle into your comfortable space, you can almost feel how that ancient need still breathes through the modern rules that keep corridors calm at night, through the carefully balanced timetables that alternate challenge with rest, and through the house communities that make an enormous echoing castle feel, at times, like a cluster of smaller homes. The sorting hat, the house points, the prefect rounds, even the simple expectation that you will be at breakfast when the bell rings, are all quiet descendants of that first intention, to gather scattered children into one protected pattern of days. In this journey, we will not dwell on the founders' later quarrels or on chambers built in secret. Instead, we will follow the calm, everyday fulfillment of their shared hope, watching how 1,000 tiny systems keep their school gently working. And when you open your eyes inside a first year's very first morning, you may find yourself wondering how many of those ancient decisions are still shaping where you walk, what you learn, and when the castle finally lets you sleep. 1820. The castle breathes Hogwarts across the seasons, duration 514. From that first morning, you begin to feel that Hogwarts itself keeps time, that the castle does not simply contain schedules, but breathes in long, slow seasons. Welcome, dear listener, to the quiet arc of a school year where every corridor, every window, every flickering torch marks the passage from one term to the next, and where the rhythm is gentle enough to lull you, even as you walk it in your imagination. It always begins in early September. You arrive across dark water in little boats, the lanterns mirrored in the lake as the castle rises ahead, bright and distant, while older students rumble up the drive in carriages drawn by unseen power. There are trunks and owl cages and muffled greetings, the low murmur of names checked off and houses called, and after the sorting and the first feast, timetables are quietly handed down the tables, inked grids that will shape almost every waking hour. This is the first term, golden and leaf-strewn, when mornings smell of damp grass and parchment, and evenings end with the soft scratch of quills in common rooms. As September deepens into October, the air cools and the grounds turn copper and rust, and somewhere between charms, essays, and your first successful potion, Halloween arrives as a bright marker on the calendar. The great hall glows with floating pumpkins and dripping candlelight, shadows dancing on ancient stone while laughter echoes under the bewitched ceiling. Outside, the world grows darker earlier each day, but inside, the warmth of the fires and the hum of conversation grows stronger, as if the castle is drawing its students closer before winter settles in. By the time you return from the brief Christmas holidays, the school has entered its candle-lit heart. Snow presses against high windows, muffling sound, and the castle's voice changes. The crackle of common room fireplaces, the drip of thawing icicles in distant courtyards, the slightly sharper ring of footsteps in chilled corridors. This winter term feels narrower and more inward, with lessons continuing steadily while the wind whispers around the towers, and you may notice how empty staircases seem when many have gone home, or how a late-night patrol reveals corridors that feel almost asleep. Then, as the light slowly lengthens and you pass the soft threshold of the Easter break, the third term opens like a window. Spring spills in with birdsong and open casements. The lake loses its ice, and students drift onto the lawns with books and exam timetables. This is a bright, exam-tinged season where laughter on the Quidditch pitch is contrasted with the rustle of revision notes, and where every era holds its own magic of endings and beginnings. The castle feels fuller, more awake, yet also gently winding down toward the leaving feast, where trunks are packed again and another year is folded away into whispered history. Within this broad, seasonal breathing, a smaller rhythm waits. Wake-up bells and breakfast chatter, classes and meals and curfew, quiet hours when torches dim and the building settles. As you settle into your comfortable space, you might wonder, how does a single day fit inside this great turning year? And what does it feel like to walk hour by hour through a castle that never truly sleeps? 2334, Morning in the Towers, waking up as a Hogwarts student, duration 7:17. To answer that wondering, you have to begin at the very first moment of the day, when the castle is still half asleep and the sky beyond its towers is only just beginning to pale. Welcome, dear listener, to the quiet instant when night loosens its hold on Hogwarts and a single student stirs behind the curtains of a four-poster bed wrapped in blankets that still hold a trace of the night's chill. At first, there is only dimness, the curtains half drawn so that a soft grey light seeps in along the seams, painting a thin line across your pillow while the rest of the room remains cocooned in shadow. You hear the distant clatter from the great hall below, plates and cutlery, and the low rumble of early rising staff, all muted by stone and distance, And closer still, the muffled voices and sleepy movements of roommates who are just beginning to turn over, to yawn, to remember where they are in this magical world between childhood and adulthood. This is a time before haste, when the first years tend to sleep until the last reasonable moment, relying on friends, older housemates, or the gradual swell of noise to pull them from dreams. While fifth years and seventh years sometimes rise earlier, driven from bed by unfinished essays, OWL or NEWT anxieties, or the promise of a dawn Quidditch practice under a sky streaked with pale color. Where the younger students burrow deeper into their pillows, the captains and prefects may already be lacing boots or revising star charts by wandlight, each age carrying its own rhythm within the shared timetable. As you sit up, the small morning rituals begin, unremarkable in themselves, yet comforting in their repetition, like beads on a string of days. Feet find cold stone beneath the bed, so you reach for thick socks before the chill can bite too sharply, and then for your robes, hanging from the post where you left them, slightly creased but familiar. Fingers straighten a house-colored tie, fumble with buttons, smooth hair that has taken on a life of its own in the night, and around you the same sequence unfolds at every four-poster. Someone searching for a misplaced textbook, someone laughing quietly at an inside joke, someone still half asleep, blinking owlishly at the ancient carved ceiling. In these small shared movements, every era holds its own magic, because the details change but the pattern endures year after year, generation after generation. The same faces greet you each morning, some bleary, some already bright, and in that repetition there is a gentle power, a sense that you are woven into a history of students who have woken in this room, in this tower or dungeon or basement for centuries. Do you notice how the castle's whispered secrets feel softer at this hour, more like a lullaby than a warning? Then comes the first real transition of the day, the journey from bed to breakfast. From Gryffindor Tower, you spiral down staircases that turn lazily beneath your feet, past portraits that are only just waking, their painted inhabitants stretching and adjusting frames. From the airy heights of Ravenclaw, you emerge from behind the bronze eagle knocker, stepping into corridors touched by early light that filters through tall windows and glows on stone worn smooth by countless footsteps. In the cozy Hufflepuff basement, you slip out through the round, low doorway near the kitchens, greeted by warm air and the faint, comforting scent of baking bread drifting up from the elves' domain. And from the cool Slytherin dungeons, you leave behind the green-lit common room, where the lake presses close to the windows, and climb toward corridors that grow brighter with each turn. Across all these paths, you travel in small clusters, robes whispering, voices low, letting the gentle flow of the crowd carry you along. The castle feels different now from its midnight self, less mysterious and more expectant, as if it too is preparing for the machinery of the day to begin turning in earnest. Ahead lies the great hall, where timetables, owls, and the first bells of the day will quietly dictate the shape of your hours. So, as you settle into your comfortable space, imagine yourself reaching the great doors, the smell of toast and tea and porridge drifting out to meet you. Step through with this imagined student and follow them to the long house table where, between spoonfuls of breakfast, the true systems of Hogwarts will begin to reveal themselves, one carefully ordered lesson at a time. 3051. Breakfast and Owls, the Great Hall's Quiet Clockwork, duration 6:03. You sit down at the house table, and at first it is almost quiet, the kind of soft, expectant quiet that makes the whole magical hall feel as though it is taking a slow, deep breath with you. Pale morning light filters through the enchanted ceiling, mingling with the floating candles whose flames seem gentler at this hour, their ancient power softened to a warm glow that barely competes with the dawn. Benches fill a little at a time, the rustle of robes and the faint scrape of chairs joining the delicate clink of cutlery, and you realize that, before any spell is cast or any textbook is opened, Hogwarts begins its day with calm. In this world of shifting staircases and whispered secrets, breakfast is one of the few fixed points, a quiet ceremony that happens at nearly the same time every morning, in every era, no matter what else is changing beyond the castle walls. You might notice how students drift in by habit rather than command, guided not by shouted orders, but by the steady pull of routine, finding their places, pouring tea, buttering toast, checking the time by the level of porridge left in their bowls. These meals, taken together beneath banners and candlelight, become unspoken anchors. Breakfast to gather yourself, lunch to measure the middle of the day, dinner to draw a line under the hours that have passed. Then, just when the hall feels settled, the pattern shifts, and a soft chaos arrives on beating wings. The first owl sweeps in from the high windows, then another and another, until the air above the tables is alive with motion, feathers and twine and the glint of sealing wax turning the great hall into a moving constellation of errands and messages. Letters slide neatly beside plates, newspapers land with a gentle thump by cups of pumpkin juice, and every so often a parcel drops into a dish with a small splash that makes nearby students laugh. It looks wild at first glance, but you soon see how predictable it is, how this daily flurry of owl post becomes its own comforting ritual, a reminder that the outside world still exists, yet visits on a schedule you can trust. At the far end, the staff table offers another kind of order, steady and watchful. Professors arrive with their own quiet habits, some already reading the morning prophet, others unrolling timetables edged with tiny notes and colored inks, comparing columns of classes that will shape the day. They lean together in low conversation, adjusting a room here, trading a period there, occasionally letting their eyes sweep the hall, counting house colors, checking that first years look awake, that older students have their bags and books ready. Few words are needed. Their presence alone, robed and composed beneath the great windows, tells you that someone is keeping track of the hours when you do not have to. Welcome, dear listener, to the hidden clockwork of Hogwarts, where no bells are loudly rung, yet the day still divides itself with remarkable precision. As you settle into your comfortable space, you can almost feel how, once breakfast plates clear and owls return to the skies, the school gently shifts from gathering to going, from the stillness of morning to the measured procession of lessons. Ahead lie periods and breaks, corridors filling and emptying like tides, afternoons that lengthen into study hours and evenings that narrow toward curfew, each block of time linked to the next by patterns older than any single timetable. Every era holds its own magic, but this quiet structure endures, and in the next part of our journey, we will follow it step by unhurried step, through a full school day from first lesson to final light. 3654. Bells, periods and double lessons. How the timetable really works. Duration 518. Those patterns become clearest when you listen for the bells themselves, chiming softly through stone and stairwell, calling the castle from one task to the next. Welcome, dear listener, as you settle into your comfortable space. You can imagine a school day unfolding not in sharp bursts, but in long measured stretches of time, with mornings and afternoons arranged like calm, ordered shelves of learning. Lessons usually begin after breakfast in the Great Hall, when the candles are still burning low and the sky beyond the enchanted ceiling is brightening into day. And they continue in steady succession until the late afternoon, when the light slants through high windows and the castle begins to think of supper. This is a world of morning blocks and afternoon blocks, of first period and last period, but softened by magic and age, with enough space between each class that the day feels like a gentle ascent rather than a hurried climb. Within that frame, the school distinguishes between single and double periods, and this quiet distinction shapes the texture of your week far more than you might expect. A single period is often reserved for theory, for parchment and quills and the slow copying of runes, while double lessons are set aside for subjects whose power needs time to unfold, such as potions simmering in the dungeons, transfiguration exercises that demand careful repetition, or defense against the dark arts when practical spells must be tried, corrected, and tried again. In those longer stretches, the clock seems to loosen its grip, and you can almost feel the ancient history of the craft you are learning. Timetables are not written for individuals, but for clusters of students bound by year and house, so that you move through the castle as part of a small, familiar constellation. First-year Gryffindors and Hufflepuffs might share herbology, while Ravenclaws and Slytherins descend together to potions, their schedules intertwined so that faces repeat from corridor to classroom, and the vast, echoing building narrows into a series of known paths and companions. Where he burned bright, she glowed warm and steady. Where the castle is immense, your little group is reassuringly small. Between these periods, there are breaks that are more than empty spaces on a chart. You walk the corridors that twist past tapestries and suits of armor. You pass your common room entrance, perhaps slipping inside for a forgotten book or a brief, whispered conversation, and all the while the staircases shift and the portraits comment, giving the sense that the entire structure is in gentle, constant motion. Let the gentle flow of students from one tower to another become part of the castle's own breathing, a rhythm of footsteps and low voices that has continued for centuries. As the years advance, the arrangement of those bells and blocks changes, growing denser around OWLS and NEWTS, branching into electives and specialized seminars until no two timetables look quite the same. Yet the best way to see how these rules and rhythms quietly shape a life is not from above, but from very close by. In the next part of our journey, we will step into the shoes of a single first year and follow their week, lesson by lesson and corridor by corridor, to discover what secrets an ordinary timetable is hiding. 4212. A first year week, from first spells to early bedtimes, duration 8:11. So you step in close now as the wide sweep of timetables narrows to a single, ordinary day, and you imagine yourself as a first year waking to pale light in a stone-walled dormitory. The night has been full of new sounds, the distant rush of the lake or the wind around the towers, and for a moment you forget where you are, until the soft murmur of your roommates and the rustle of house robes remind you that you are inside a living castle with its own quiet rhythm. As you settle into your comfortable space, you follow that rhythm, letting it carry you from bed to basin to the echoing staircase that leads upward. Breakfast in the Great Hall becomes your true beginning, a daily anchor in this magical world, with 4 long tables stretching beneath a bewitched ceiling that reflects the grey or golden sky outside. You sit among other first years, still a little shy, listening to older students compare schedules, and you notice how the clink of goblets and the soft hoot of an owl delivering the morning post blend into a steady background hum, Then, almost before you are ready, it is time to gather your books and descend into the cool, faintly damp air of the dungeons for a double potions lesson, where cauldrons simmer and Professor Snape's instructions slice calmly through the steam. By late morning, you might climb back into the light for charms or transfiguration, moving from the shadowed weight of stone corridors into classrooms where feathers hover and matchsticks attempt to become needles. This is a time when magic feels close at hand, yet also stubborn, as spells misfire and wands tremble, and you realize that power here is not wild but carefully trained. Where the dungeons are hushed and tense, these rooms are bright and focused, every whispered incantation adding to the sense that you are slowly being woven into an ancient tradition. Lunch draws everyone back to the great hall like a reset spell, a gentle pause in the middle of the day. You trade stories of singed eyebrows, spilled potions, or a spell that finally worked, while the house tables refill themselves with hearty food that seems to appear exactly when you need it most. It is here that you glance again at your timetable, tracing the afternoon's path with a fingertip, feeling that mix of anticipation and the faint weight of homework already beginning to accumulate in your bag. The afternoon leads you out of the castle itself, down stone steps and across the grounds to the greenhouses, where herbology lessons unfold among earthy scents and misted glass. You learn to repot stubborn plants that wriggle in their tubs, to listen for the subtle warnings of leaves and tendrils, and you begin to sense that even here, in the soil, Hogwarts keeps its secrets. On one evening each week, the pattern will break. Much later, when most of the castle is preparing for bed, you will climb to the astronomy tower, shivering a little in the night air as you chart the slow movement of stars, discovering that not all lessons happen in the bright heart of the day. Between these fixed points, the in-between moments quietly shape your week. You walk in small clusters along moving staircases that sometimes carry you kindly to your destination and sometimes insist on a detour, and you learn to leave early just in case the castle has other ideas. You wait outside classrooms, backs against cool stone, watched by portraits who mutter advice or simply observe, and by prefects who gently redirect you when an unfamiliar corridor begins to twist away into shadow. Welcome, dear listener, to these small passages of time, where every era holds its own magic, even in a single Tuesday afternoon. As daylight fades, dinner restores the same sense of order that breakfast once promised, drawing everyone together again beneath the enchanted ceiling. Afterwards, your path bends back toward your common room, where the fire burns low and the room fills with the soft rustle of parchment, the scratching of quills, and the occasional drowsy question passed between armchairs. Homework is still light in these first weeks, yet you feel how it will grow, line by line, as the term unfolds. Curfew arrives not as a harsh command, but as a gentle nudge, sending first years up to their dormitories, while older students linger a little longer. In the dormitory, the castle's vastness suddenly shrinks to the circle of 4 poster beds and the glow of a single lamp. You change into your nightclothes, tuck your wand safely away, and listen as the voices around you fall from conversation to whispers and then to the soft rhythm of breathing. Behind bed curtains, a last murmur of excitement passes from pillow to pillow, questions about tomorrow's lessons or the next Quidditch practice, until even those stories waiting to be told drift into dreams. Let the gentle flow of this first-year week carry you onward now, into the deeper routines and older histories that wait just beyond this quiet, ordinary night. 5023. Growing schedules, electives, OWLs, and the weight of choice. Duration 610. Morning comes again, and that quiet first-year week you followed begins to repeat until the days blur together into something steady and known. As you settle into your comfortable space, you can imagine how, by the time that same child reaches third year, the rhythm of Hogwarts feels almost like breathing, automatic and sure, even as the pattern of each day begins to grow more intricate. This is the era of choices. At the end of second year, letters arrive with a list of new subjects, and you are invited to widen your magical world just a little more. Care of magical creatures promises afternoons in the paddocks and along the forest edge, where Hagrid's booming voice mixes with the rustle of wings and the snort of strange, gentle beasts. Divination waits high in a perfumed tower, tea leaves and crystal balls catching the dim light, while ancient runes offers the quiet power of symbols carved long ago, and arithmancy reveals the calm, numerical patterns that some witches and wizards hear almost like music. Every era holds its own magic, and for a third year, it lives in the moment you trace those names with your finger and decide which doors to open. By autumn, the timetable that once fit neatly on a single page has grown denser, lines of ink threading through the week like a woven spell. You still walk with your housemates to transfiguration and potions, still share double periods of charms and defense, yet now there are hours when your familiar group divides, some turning toward the greenhouses, others climbing toward divination, and a few slipping down to the creatures' enclosures beyond the castle walls. For a little while, the paths diverge, then, as the bell rings and the corridors fill again, you reunite at lunch or in the next shared lesson, comparing notes and whispered impressions of teachers and tasks. As time moves on, fifth year rises ahead of you like a gentle hill that everyone knows must be climbed. OWL season does not arrive all at once. It builds slowly in extra revision periods added to the timetable, in homework that shifts from new topics to careful review, in common rooms that grow quieter after supper as more students bend over books and parchment. Teachers, who once seemed tireless in setting essays, begin to space them out, leaving pockets of evening for practice, for rereading, for letting knowledge settle. 2 years later, NEWT classes narrow your schedule again, fewer subjects but longer, deeper lessons, until your days are shaped around the paths you have chosen toward healer, aura, researcher, or something still unknown. And yet, through all of this, the anchors do not move. Breakfast still waits in the great hall, candles floating above long tables that you could walk to half asleep. Curfew still draws a soft line around the night, sending you back through portraits and staircases to your house's fire, your dormitory, your bed. House routines, from the way notices appear on the common room board to the pattern of prefect rounds, remain almost unchanged, so that even when your timetable is crowded, the frame that holds each day feels reassuringly the same. Within that frame, the rules and systems of Hogwarts continue their quiet work. House points click upward and downward like a subtle clock of conduct. Detentions are assigned and served, and students learn, almost without thinking, which corridors are best avoided after hours and which professors are strict about lateness. These structures are so constant that they fade into the background, even as the content of your days grows more complex, and it is only later, looking back, that you sense how they guided you. Somewhere beyond these busy years, another kind of change waits, one that will touch not just timetables but the castle's very place in the wider magical world. 5633 corridors, staircases, and secret shortcuts moving through a living castle. Duration 636. And while the wider magical world shifts and argues beyond the walls, inside the castle another, quieter question shapes each day. How do hundreds of young witches and wizards actually move through a building that seems determined to move under their feet? This is where Hogwarts reveals one of its most ancient games, a kind of slow architectural dance that you must learn to follow if you wish to arrive anywhere on time. The moving staircases are the clearest expression of this living logic. At first, you notice only the spectacle. Stone flights swinging gently away from their landings, iron banisters gliding like the arms of some patient, enchanted clock, steps turning with a low, whispered grind of magic and age. But in time, you begin to understand their temperament, which staircases drift most often at mid-morning, which ones prefer to shift just before dinner, and you learn almost without thinking to leave early for certain classes because a staircase might decide to change its mind. A 5-minute journey to Transfiguration can become a winding detour past the tapestry of Barnabas the Barmy, and you simply accept that the castle has chosen a different path for you today. As you settle into your comfortable space in this world of corridors and landings, you find that you are not entirely alone in your navigation. Portraits line the walls, their painted inhabitants drowsing, gossiping, or keeping quiet watch over the steady flow of students. Some will murmur a warning when a staircase is about to move, others will suggest a side passage if they sense you are late, and a few will simply observe your rushing footsteps with the amused patience of those who have seen centuries of such small panics. Ghosts drift through the air like pale memories of earlier eras, and now and then a helpful spirit will point a translucent hand toward a lesser-known door, guiding you without ever quite breaking the castle's sense of mystery. In this way, an unwritten map begins to form, passed not on parchment, but in low voices between lessons. Older students share the secrets of Hogwarts as though sharing family history. The shortcut behind a swinging tapestry that brings you 2 floors down, the narrow passage concealed in a suit of armor that leads toward the kitchens, the discreet door near the charms corridor that spares you a long climb. These routes are not officially endorsed, yet they become part of the real timetable, the hidden system that makes punctuality possible in a building that seems determined to wander. Every era holds its own magic, and in each generation, new shortcuts are discovered, forgotten and rediscovered, their stories waiting to be told again. For all this motion, there is a deep reliability beneath the castle's shifting skin. Classrooms remain where timetables say they are. The potions dungeon does not decide to float up to a tower, nor does the Great Hall ever forget its place at the heart of the school's daily rhythm. Common rooms never move, anchoring each house in a familiar corner of stone and firelight, and teachers expect you to master not only spells and theory, but also the quiet skill of reading Hogwarts itself. Where the staircases play, the bells do not. Lessons begin and end with unwavering regularity, and it is understood that you will find a way. Welcome, dear listener, to the gentle truth that movement here is its own kind of study. As the day lengthens into evening, feet grow heavy from climbing and crossing, from tracing the same paths and discovering new ones, until the pull of rest becomes stronger than the curiosity to explore one more corridor. Curfew gathers the wandering lines of students back toward their common rooms, where the rules of noise, light, and late-night whispers take over from the rules of staircases and schedules. Let the gentle flow of the castle's motion slow now as doors close, fires burn low, and Hogwarts shifts from a place of constant passage to a network of quiet rooms, preparing you for the next morning's journey through its ancient, ever-patient halls. 6309 Common Rooms and Dormitories, How Houses Become Home, duration 620. Welcome, dear listener. As you settle into your comfortable space, the corridors outside grow quieter, and the river of footsteps that once filled the staircases has thinned to a trickle, each sound now flowing back toward one of 4 hidden hearts of the castle. This is the time when Hogwarts, so vast and ancient in the daylight, gathers itself into smaller, gentler worlds, and the houses become not just colors and crests, but true homes. Gryffindor's home waits high in its tower, reached through a portrait that swings aside to reveal a firelit room where red and gold fabrics soften the stone, and armchairs sag comfortably around a hearth that seems to burn with its own quiet courage. Far below, Slytherin's common room lies under the lake, a long, low chamber where greenish light filters through the water, shadows ripple on the ceiling, and dark wood and leather give the space a cool, secretive power. Hufflepuff's rooms are tucked near the kitchens, round and earthy, with low ceilings, fat armchairs, and plants trailing from every shelf, as if the very soil of the world had been coaxed indoors. High in another tower, Ravenclaw's common room opens into a wide, airy space, ringed with bookcases and arched windows, where moonlight and starlight spill over blue hangings and polished stone. Across the evening, students drift back here between classes and after meals, again and again, until the path becomes a kind of muscle memory. Up the stairs from dinner, through familiar turns, past the same suits of armor, to the door that responds only to their house. Bags are dropped beside chairs, ties are loosened, jumpers pulled off, and homework spreads across low tables, the murmur of voices weaving together with the scratch of quills and the occasional whispered spell. In this predictable rhythm, where you always know where you will end the day, the great echoing castle becomes smaller, almost like a single, warm room. Beyond the common rooms themselves, narrow staircases or side doors lead to dormitories, divided by year and by gender, where 4-poster beds stand in a circle or a row, each hung with curtains in house colors. At the foot of every bed sits a trunk, scuffed by travel and time, its lid slowly collecting the small personal magic of school life. A Chudley Cannon's poster tacked inside, a neatly folded prefect's badge, a stack of letters tied with ribbon. Over the years, photographs are pinned to bedposts, a favorite blanket from home appears, a contraband cushion finds its way onto a window seat, and the room that was once simply assigned becomes layered with stories waiting to be told. Within these spaces, systems quietly guide behavior. Notice boards in each common room bloom with parchment, bearing curfew reminders, Quidditch practice times, Hogsmeade permissions, and exam schedules. Prefects read them first, then repeat the important parts as they shepherd younger students out to breakfast or back from the library. What is pinned in the tower or the basement in the morning shapes how house tables behave in the Great Hall that evening, as students arrive on time for practice, sit a little straighter under a head of house's eye, or whisper about a new rule just announced. Every era holds its own magic, and here it lives not only in comfort, but in responsibility. Prefects pace the common rooms at night, reminding first years to sleep, collecting names for detentions, and perhaps most powerfully, awarding or docking precious house points with a quiet word. The glowing hourglasses in the entrance hall may seem distant, yet their shifting jewels send a gentle pressure through every hearth and dormitory. Do your work, support your house, do not be the one who costs everyone the cup. As the lights dim and the castle settles, that blend of warmth, rules, and shared pride prepares you for the deeper systems of reward and discipline that wait just beyond these softly closing doors. 6929. Sorting, Identity, and House Points. The Invisible Hand of House Pride. Duration 5:31. And so, as those softly closing doors seem to seal the day, another system is already at work, one that begins not in the entrance hall, but years earlier, in a candle-lit great hall filled with whispering voices and watching portraits. Welcome, dear listener, to the sorting ceremony, that ancient ritual where each new child steps forward, heart pounding, to place a frayed old hat upon their head and to hear, in a voice only they can fully catch, the quiet judgment that will shape their time at Hogwarts. This is the moment when dormitories are decided and common rooms claimed, when the winding staircases and hidden passages rearrange themselves in a child's imagination into something like home, and when friendships form along the long house tables that will frame every meal, every celebration, every whispered worry on stormy evenings. You can almost feel the invisible lines being drawn, not as walls, but as gentle currents, guiding students toward Gryffindor's boldness, Ravenclaw's inquiry, Hufflepuff's steadiness, or Slytherin's determined ambition, each house a different way of believing what magic and what power are for. From that night onward, the house point hourglasses in the entrance hall become a kind of shared heartbeat for the school. Tall glass vessels filled with rubies, emeralds, sapphires, and topaz that rise and fall with each small triumph or mistake. As you settle into your comfortable space in this imagined corridor, you can picture students passing them on the way to breakfast, glancing up to see whether their house has climbed or slipped since yesterday, the colored gems catching the pale morning light and turning it into something almost ceremonial. Points are awarded in moments that seem small at the time, a correct answer in Transfiguration, a well-brewed potion that no longer fumes green at the edges, a lost first year gently guided back to their dormitory instead of teased. They are taken away for late arrivals, for whispered conversations that go on too long in class, for wandering beyond curfew when the castle wishes to rest. Sometimes it may feel to you as though the system is almost whimsical. A teacher in a generous mood might grant 10 points for a thoughtful insight, while another, sterner figure removes the same amount for a muddy footprint on a polished corridor. Yet beneath that apparent whimsy lies a subtle emotional pressure, one that every child understands without needing it written in any rule book. To gain points is to feel your whole table glow with quiet pride, to hear your name murmured approvingly. To lose them is to feel, for a moment, the weight of many eyes, the soft sighs of classmates who have been trying so hard to climb. Every era holds its own magic, but this particular enchantment is simple and enduring, the wish not to let others down. It nudges students to finish essays before bed, to bite back a sharp remark, to think twice before slipping out under the stars. And still, as you listen to the clink of falling gems in your mind, you might wonder, who decides when a misstep costs only points, and when it crosses an invisible threshold into detention, confiscation, or something far more serious? Those decisions, written and unwritten, form another deeper system of discipline and mercy, one whose rules are far less visible than the shining hourglasses. And it is into those quieter, more complicated secrets of Hogwarts that we will step next. 75 minutes. Written rules and whispered traditions. What you can and can't do. Duration 5 minutes 49 seconds. Those quieter, complicated secrets are woven not only into punishments, but into the simple question of what you may do and what you must never do as you move through this ancient school from dawn to curfew. As you settle into your comfortable space, you can imagine yourself not as a hero in a crisis, but as an ordinary student, simply trying to follow the rules well enough to keep your days peaceful and your nights undisturbed. Some of those rules are clear, written, and repeated until they almost lose their power to surprise you. You are told that magic in the corridors between classes is forbidden, that wands should be kept still while students hurry from charms to potions, because in such crowded stone passageways, even a harmless jinx can become dangerous. You are reminded that no student may enter another house's dormitories, that Gryffindors do not wander into Hufflepuff's cozy basement, and that Ravenclaws do not slip up the cold, winding stairs to Slytherin's hidden rooms beneath the lake. The Forbidden Forest is named quite plainly. Its boundary a line you are told never to cross. There is also the gentle but firm boundary of time itself. Curfew in this magical world is a formal rule written into school notices and repeated by prefects on the first night. By a certain hour, younger students must be in their common rooms, older students not long after, with the corridors left to the soft echo of patrolling footsteps. Prefects and staff walk those dim hallways with lanterns and whispered passwords, listening for the creak of a misplaced shoe or the murmur of a conversation that should already be asleep. Yet, around those official lines, another, softer map begins to form, drawn not in ink, but in tradition. There are staircases everyone insists are bad luck after dark, not because a teacher has said so, but because older students tell stories of steps that vanish at midnight, or railings that twist you gently toward the third-floor corridor you truly should avoid. In the library, there is no posted decree describing precisely when you may speak, but you learn that quiet questions in the early evening are tolerated, while laughter after exams earns a single raised finger from Madam Pince. In the common room, you discover that celebrating a Quidditch victory can be loud and jubilant, yet there is an unspoken moment when the cheering softens into contented murmurs, and to shout beyond that point feels almost like breaking a spell. How do you learn all this when so little of it appears on any parchment you are handed? Welcome, dear listener, to the whispered curriculum of Hogwarts, where you watch older students pause before certain doors, where you hear a fifth-year murmur that this shortcut is safe by day but troublesome at night, where you test the edge of a boundary with a slightly too late return from the owlery just to see who notices. Sometimes nothing happens at all, and that, strangely, teaches you just as much. Every era holds its own magic, and every generation adds another thin layer of custom over the old, so that by the time you arrive, you are stepping into stories waiting to be told in every corridor and common room. Yet when one of these rules, written or unwritten, is crossed, the response is not random. Behind the gentle warnings and the occasional sharp word lies a whole careful system of discipline, mercy, and consequence. And in the next moments we will let the gentle flow of time carry us into that hidden structure, calmly and step by step. 8049 Court after curfew. How discipline quietly unfolds. Duration 5:36. So, as you settle into your comfortable space and the castle's rules settle around you like a soft cloak, imagine a single quiet moment when one of those rules is brushed aside rather than broken in anger. It is late, the hour when the portraits yawn and the torches burn lower, and a lone student lingers in a corridor after curfew, not on some grand adventure, but simply walking back from the library, thoughts still drifting among ancient runes and whispered charms. This was a time of stillness when most footsteps have faded, and the stone floors remember only the day's echoes. In that hush, it is not a roaring authority that finds them, but a gentle one, perhaps a prefect on rounds, badge glinting faintly in wandlight, who pauses, takes in the scene, and asks in a low voice what kept them so long, or perhaps Argus Filch, moving with the wary tread of someone who knows every creak, whose power lies not in magic but in an encyclopedic memory of hiding places and shortcuts. Or, now and then, a patrolling teacher, robes brushing the floor, gaze sharp but not unkind, carrying both responsibility and the quiet weight of the school's history. What happens next unfolds more like a practiced ritual than a sudden storm. The student is not left alone in the dark. They are escorted step by measured step, either back to their common room or to the office of a head of house, where the light is warmer and the air feels less like a courtroom and more like a study. There, a calm conversation follows, with questions about why they were out, whether this is a pattern, whether the late hour was driven by carelessness, curiosity, or need. The response, in most eras, balances house points and detentions, praise for honesty contrasted with the gentle reminder that the rules exist to keep hundreds of young witches and wizards safe in a building full of secrets and moving staircases. Detention at Hogwarts, for the ordinary misstep, is rarely a drama and more often a structured consequence woven into the school's nightly rhythm. A student might spend an evening helping Filch with cleaning, learning how much quiet power there is in maintaining an ancient castle whose magic hums in every flagstone. Or they might assist a teacher with classroom tasks, sorting ingredients, polishing cauldrons, or copying neat labels for shelves in the potion stores, their minds settling as their hands work. On rarer occasions, under close supervision, detentions may lead to the edges of the grounds or even to the forbidden forest, not as a reckless punishment but as a carefully controlled reminder that the wider magical world holds dangers as well as wonder. For most students, these moments are rare brushstrokes on an otherwise calm routine, stories waiting to be told years later with a wry smile rather than a shiver. The predictability of the consequences, the knowledge that being out after curfew means points, or a letter home, or an evening spent in quiet labor, is part of what keeps the castle peaceful at night, its corridors mostly empty, its magic resting. Yet beneath that surface calm, another system is always at work, one that shapes not just where you may walk, but who you walk with, and how your smallest choices ripple through the life of an entire house. And it is to that subtle web of house points, pride, and rivalry that we now gently turn. 8625. Filch, Prefects and Heads of House. The network that keeps order. Duration 529. House points may tug gently at your choices, but they are not the only threads in this quiet system of order, woven through the castle like invisible lines of power. As you settle into your comfortable space, you might imagine that once curfew falls, Hogwarts simply sleeps. It does not. It watches through people who move almost unnoticed, their footsteps part of the castle's own slow heartbeat. First, there is Argus Filch, the caretaker, who seems to belong more to the stone than to the staff room, always appearing where muddy boots or whispered mischief have just been. This is a man who knows every creaking stair and sticking door, who moves through dim corridors with a lantern in one hand and a jangling ring of keys in the other, checking locks, peering into classrooms and grumbling softly at every scrap of parchment left on the floor. He is the first line of noticing when something is out of place, when a door that should be shut stands slightly ajar, or when the hush of night is broken by laughter that should not be there. In a world of shifting staircases and secret passages, his constant circling patrol is its own kind of ancient magic. Balanced against this solitary vigilance are the prefects, older students who walk the same corridors, but with a different purpose and a gentler touch. They are chosen for each house, given badges that catch the torchlight, and with them a limited authority to remind first years of curfew. to guide new students lost between charms and transfiguration, and to speak quietly for their house when a misunderstanding grows into a disciplinary matter. You might see them leading nervous first years back from late library visits, or pausing outside a common room entrance to listen for trouble, their role hovering somewhere between sibling, guide, and watchful guardian. Where Filch listens for rule-breaking, prefects listen for worry. Above them stand the heads of house, professors who are both stern disciplinarians and steady protectors, holding in their minds the complicated timetables, strengths, and struggles of dozens of students at once. They know who is falling behind in potions, who is homesick after the first snow, who shines in transfiguration but dreads flying, and they balance detentions and point deductions with late-night conversations and quiet, practical care. In their offices, beneath portraits and shelves of magical texts, they write letters home, adjust schedules, and decide when a mistake deserves punishment and when it is simply part of growing up within these ancient walls. Over all of this, like a distant star that still shapes the tides, the headmaster or headmistress presides, rarely involved in ordinary mischief, yet always present as the final, unspoken boundary. Their name alone can still a restless common room, their rare appearances in a corridor reminding everyone that behind the daily bustle lies an older, deeper authority, bound to the castle's long history and its whispered secrets. Most of the time, though, this layered network simply blends into the background, and you pass these figures on your way to class, to meals, to bed, barely noticing how they watch and listen as the day unfolds. Let the gentle flow of their unseen vigilance return us now to the rhythm of ordinary hours, to timetables and lessons, and to how a single school day at Hogwarts quietly shapes the lives within it, moment by moment, bell by bell. 9154. Homework by the fire. Evenings in the common room. Duration 6:38. From that steady march of bells and duties, the day narrows again, and you find yourself leaving the bright noise of the great hall, drifting with the tide of students as dinner ends and the castle changes its breathing. This is a quiet transition, gentle but certain, as benches scrape back, candles burn lower, and groups peel away toward staircases and passages that lead not to classrooms now, but to home-like corners hidden within ancient stone. You climb or descend with them, depending on the house you imagine as your own. Perhaps you follow the Gryffindors, rising through spiraling staircases that turn lazily beneath your feet, their voices softening as portraits nod and drowse along the walls. Or you slip down toward the Hufflepuff basement, past warm kitchens where the last dishes are being scrubbed with enchanted brushes. Ravenclaws drift higher still toward their airy tower and the riddle-guarded door, while Slytherins move in a cool, green-tinted current toward the dungeons, where the lake presses its whispered presence against the windows. Corridor by corridor, the castle empties, until the echoes of the day's bustle fade into a low, magical hush. In each common room, evening has its own familiar shape, a pattern worn smooth by generations. Fires spring to life, either kindled by house elves before you arrive, or coaxed from the embers by a lazy flick of a wand, and armchairs are claimed with the quiet certainty of long habit. Low tables disappear beneath books and parchment, ink bottles and half-unrolled scrolls as students settle into their chosen corners. There is the soft, repetitive scratch of quills, the occasional rustle of turning pages, and a murmur of conversation that never quite rises to a shout, as if the very walls prefer this gentler era of the day. Homework, in this world, is not an afterthought, but a woven part of the school's power and structure. Professors set assignments with clear expectations and dates, Essays on goblin rebellions due next Wednesday, star charts to be completed before the new moon, potions ingredients to be memorized for the next double lesson. Over time, students develop their own small systems, the meticulous Ravenclaw who plans out each evening by subject, the Hufflepuff who forms a quiet study circle, the Gryffindor who insists they work best by the fire at the last possible moment, the Slytherin who finishes early and revises in silence. There is an unspoken understanding that these hours between dinner and curfew belong mostly to study and to the steady winding down of the mind. Around the edges of the work, comforting rituals appear, the same and yet always new. A chessboard is set up in one corner, pieces muttering strategies under their breath as two friends play between paragraphs of an essay. A bag of sweets from Hogsmeade is passed around, sugar quills traded for chocolate frogs, while someone reads a particularly dense passage from a textbook aloud, making the theory feel less heavy when shared. A younger student might ask a prefect to check their charm's homework, and the older student leans over with patient guidance, the chain of knowledge stretching quietly from year to year. From time to time, a prefect makes slow rounds of the room, reminding everyone in a low voice how long remains until curfew, not as a threat, but as a gentle boundary that keeps the night in order. As the evening deepens, you can feel the tempo of the world inside the castle soften even further. Sentences trail off as yawns spread from sofa to window seat. Books close with soft thuds, and ink bottles are stoppered and set aside. One by one, students gather their things, say their last goodnights, and climb the final staircases to their dormitories, or slip through archways to rooms lined with four-poster beds and softly breathing roommates. The structure of the day, so present in bells and timetables and expectations, loosens its hold at last, releasing each tired mind into sleep, where other kinds of magic and other stories waiting to be told will unfold behind closed eyes until morning light and the cycle begins again. 9832, lights out, curfew, nighttime patrols, and the sleeping castle. Duration, 6 minutes. In those first quiet moments after you draw the curtains of your four-poster bed, the castle feels as if it is taking a long, slow breath with you, the rush of the day retreating into darkness while the softer, older rhythms of Hogwarts rise to the surface. As you settle into your comfortable space, you hear the last rustles of robes being folded, the faint clink of a wand set carefully on a bedside table, and then, one by one, the voices around you slip from conversation into murmurs, from murmurs into silence. In each dormitory, the pattern is much the same, though every house colors it with its own quiet magic. In Gryffindor, whispered retellings of the day's small triumphs fade behind thick red curtains, while the fire in the common room below crackles itself toward embers. In Ravenclaw, someone's final page turns with a soft sigh before the book is tucked away. Old wood creaks as the tower settles. Bedposts give the occasional protesting groan, and soon the only steady sounds are the gentle, shared breathing of roommates and the distant, almost imagined heartbeat of the ancient stone around you. You might wonder, in that half-drifting state, how many generations have fallen asleep to these same sounds. Curfew, on parchment, is a clear instruction, but in practice it feels like a gradual closing of petals at night. Doors to common rooms swing shut and latch with a familiar click. Staircases grind into a resting place, and the portraits along the corridors grow drowsy or unexpectedly talkative, some bidding sleepy goodnights, others settling into their own painted gatherings. The castle, which has spent the day channeling the energy of hundreds of students, seems to exhale at last. its magic withdrawing from bustling classrooms and echoing halls into quieter, more secret currents. Yet even as you drift, the systems that keep this world ordered continue. Prefects make their rounds with softly glowing lanterns, their footsteps measured on flagstones that remember every patrol from every era of the school's history, while teachers trace longer circuits, checking doors, listening for the telltale sounds of wandering students or mischief in motion. Where he burned bright, she glowed warm and steady. In the same way, strict eyes and kindly ones share this duty, balancing discipline with an understanding that curiosity does not always sleep on command. These nightly walks are a reminder that rules at Hogwarts do not vanish with the sunlight. They simply change their shape. Elsewhere, other beings keep their own hours. Ghosts glide through walls and stairwells, pale and silent, their conversations about long-ago exams and forgotten duels continuing as if time were only a suggestion. Deep below, house elves move briskly through the kitchens, polishing goblets, laying out breakfast preparations, and tending to the great ovens whose warmth never truly fades. In the owlery, feathers rustle as owls shift on their perches, some returning late from distant deliveries, others dreaming, if owls dream, of the routes they will fly at dawn. The castle never truly sleeps. It simply passes its vigilance to different guardians. Welcome, dear listener, to this resting point in the cycle, where one day has folded itself neatly away and another waits just beyond the horizon. Every era holds its own magic, yet this simple pattern of lights out and watchful quiet repeats across centuries, binding students of the past to those of the present, through the same dependable curfews, the same patient patrols, the same unseen hands preparing tomorrow. And as the night deepens and even the portraits fall still, Hogwarts holds its breath for a different kind of awakening, one that will not be marked by a bell, but by a change in the very air of the magical world itself. 104.32 Weekends, Hogsmeade and Quidditch. When structure softens, duration 8:02. On some evenings, that held breath carries straight through to morning, but most of the time, Hogwarts exhales into something gentler. The weekend, when the strict lines of the timetable soften, yet never quite dissolve. As you settle into your comfortable space, you can imagine waking to a castle that stirs a little later, where the bells wait a few extra beats, and where the same ancient stones hold a quieter kind of magic. On ordinary Saturdays, there is no rush of robes in the corridors, no frantic search for quills before first period, only the slow drift of students emerging from their dormitories when they are ready. Some heading straight to the Great Hall for long, unhurried breakfasts that stretch almost until midday. This is a time when the house tables are dotted with newspapers and chessboards, when you might linger over pumpkin juice while owls circle lazily above, and when the world outside the enchanted ceiling feels very far away. Afterwards, the castle scatters its inhabitants into common rooms thick with the soft murmur of card games and letters home, into a library where the turning of pages becomes its own steady rhythm, and out onto the grounds, where cloaks and scarves move like bright threads against the lake and the distant watching forest. For older students, some weekends carry a different kind of anticipation, one that begins days earlier with permission slips quietly signed at kitchen tables and returned to heads of house. Hogsmeade visits do not arrive as surprises. They are set dates on the calendar, whispered about over porridge, circled mentally as small beacons of freedom within the school year. When the morning comes, groups gather under the watchful eyes of staff, cloaks fastened, pockets jingling faintly with saved coins. And then they leave the safety of the castle in supervised streams, crossing the grounds toward a village where sweet shops, tea shops, and narrow cobbled streets offer a carefully measured taste of the wider magical world. You can almost hear the contrast, the echoing corridors behind them growing briefly still, the hum of the village swelling ahead. Then there are Quidditch days, when structure bends not around place but around attention. Lessons may be lighter, homework assigned with a knowing glance, yet the match itself is written firmly into the day, announced on notice boards and anticipated in every house long before the teams walk onto the pitch. House banners unfurl in the stands, colours blazing against the sky, and for a few hours the whole school seems to lean in the same direction, its usual preoccupation suspended in the air with the players. And yet, beneath the roar of the crowd and the thrill of enchanted brooms, the dependable systems remain. Meals are served at their usual times, curfew falls when it always does, and even the most jubilant victory must eventually yield to the quiet insistence of bedtime. The staff, too, shift their stance on these looser days, though they never quite step away. With fewer formal classes, some open their doors for extra help, their offices becoming small harbours of guidance for students who choose to seek it, while others simply walk the corridors and grounds with an easier gait, their presence a gentle reminder that, even when the rules feel softer, the adults who hold the school together are still near. It is in these moments that you might glimpse a professor pausing to watch the lake, or sharing a brief, companionable word with a group of students heading to the library, and you sense that the power of the place lies as much in these quiet guardianships as in any spell. And then, just as weekends stretch the days and Quidditch lifts the mood, another pattern returns that feels entirely different. Exam weeks, when the castle seems to draw itself inwards once more. Timetables tighten again, not with the lively bustle of ordinary lessons, but with carefully arranged sittings in echoing halls, desks in straight lines beneath bewitched ceilings, quills scratching in unison as if the building itself were writing. Where Hogsmeade days let the energy flow outward, exam days gather it, holding it in concentrated silence. Where house banners once waved in the open air, now house tables in the great hall host whispered revision and early nights. It is a contrast that you can feel almost physically, the lively swell of a Quidditch cheer set gently against the held breath before an OWL paper is turned over. In this way, weekends, village visits and matches do not break Hogwarts' order so much as they give it room to breathe, creating a slow, dependable rhythm between expansion and stillness, between celebration and concentration. Every era holds its own magic, but this pattern remains. Days that stretch and days that narrow, all held within the same protective routines, so that even in change, you always know where you are in the life of the school and can feel the next quiet turning of its ancient, dependable wheel. 112-34. Exam seasons, silence, revision, and structured stress. Duration 544. So when that ancient, dependable wheel turns toward exam season, the rhythm you have grown used to does not vanish. It narrows. The same bells ring, the same staircases twist and sigh, but the castle's energy draws inward, like a long, slow breath held in the chest of Hogwarts itself. You notice it first in the evenings, when the common rooms grow quieter, conversations dipping into murmurs as piles of notes and ink-stained parchment spread across low tables, and even the firelight seems to flicker more gently, as if it too is revising. In this calmer era of the school year, the library becomes a world unto itself, its long tables filling earlier each day until every chair holds a bent head, every surface crowded with textbooks and borrowed quills. You see older students, especially those facing OWLS and NEWTS, carrying armfuls of heavy volumes between classes, defense essays tucked beside potions charts, arithmancy tables folded carefully into herbology guides. As you settle into your comfortable space within this shared, purposeful silence, it is not frantic but focused, a kind of structured stress that has its own quiet power. Timetables, usually so fixed and familiar, begin to shift, yet they do so with great clarity. Ordinary lessons give way to formal revision sessions, where a transfiguration period might become an hour of calmly revisiting past spells, and a charms class might be dedicated to patient practice under a watchful, encouraging eye. For the big examination years, neat schedules are posted on house notice boards, lines of dates and times and rooms written in precise hands, and the same information is read aloud at meals, so no one need fear missing a test. Welcome, dear listener, to a season when routine bends but never breaks. When the examinations themselves begin, Hogwarts moves with almost ceremonial order. Written papers are usually held in large, high-ceilinged rooms like the Great Hall, where desks appear in straight, satisfying rows, each one carefully spaced, each student watched over by invigilating staff who pace with soft, measured steps. Practical exams unfold in specialized classrooms and practice spaces, cauldrons gleaming in potions, cushions arranged for charms, creatures and plants prepared for care of magical creatures and herbology, while for OWLs and NEWTs, external examiners arrive, bringing with them the weight of wider magical history and whispered standards beyond the castle walls. Around this carefully arranged pressure, the support systems of the school draw closer. Teachers offer extra help in the evenings, opening their doors for questions, gentle corrections, and the steady reassurance that comes from experience. Peers quiz one another in corridors and under archways, turning facts and dates into soft-spoken questions, while meals remain fixed points in the day, anchoring you with familiar tastes and the low hum of shared effort. Curfew still falls at the usual time, guiding tired students back to their dormitories so that even in worry, sleep has a place to land, and let the gentle flow of night restore what study has spent. And then, slowly, the tension loosens. One by one, exams fall behind you, stacks of parchment are collected and carried away, and the quiet that follows each final paper feels different, lighter, full of stories waiting to be told. In the last days of term, the structure begins to soften, revision charts replaced by end-of-year tidying, lingering walks, and unhurried conversations. Yet even here the castle is preparing its next turn. What happens when that pressure finally releases into celebration? When order gives way to feasts, farewells, and the strange magical stillness of an empty school? 118:18. Feasts, holidays, and homecomings. The year's soft edges. Duration 6 minutes and 2 seconds. So the year loosens its collar, and the tight weave of lessons and examinations gives way to something softer, something older than any timetable, as Hogwarts returns to the rhythm of feasts and farewells that have marked its seasons since the age of the founders. As you settle into your comfortable space, you can almost see the great hall transforming before you, the long house tables gleaming beneath floating candles as the final evening of term draws quietly to a close. At an end-of-term feast, the castle seems to pour all its remaining magic into the meal, with platters of roast meats and bowls of steaming vegetables, towers of puddings and jugs of pumpkin juice appearing as if from nowhere, until the tables are so laden that you wonder where the kitchens could possibly store it all. Above, the enchanted ceiling mirrors a calm night sky, while house banners hang in rich, ancient colors, sometimes subtly rearranged to honor the year's champions, sometimes simply glowing in their usual places, steady and reassuring. Along the staff table, teachers watch with a mixture of pride and deep, quiet relief, their faces softened by candlelight and the knowledge that another stretch of the school's long history has been safely completed. When the feast is over, the rhythm shifts again, and departure begins. Trunks are packed in echoing dormitories, lids creaking as students fold away school robes and tuck in small, secret treasures gathered across the months, while owls are gently coaxed into cages, their amber eyes blinking sleepily at the early hour. Down at the lake, the carriages and boats wait, and soon the Hogwarts Express is breathing steam at the distant station, ready to carry everyone towards Christmas firesides or long summer fields. The castle